be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. At that time, again Jesus spoke to the chief priests and the elders of the people in parables, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a marriage feast for his son and sent his servants to call those who were invited to the marriage feast, but they would not come. Again, he sent other servants, saying, 'Tell those who are invited, behold, I have made ready my dinner. My oxen and my fat calves are killed, and everything is ready. Come to the marriage feast.' But they made light of it and went off, one to his farm, another to his business, while the rest seized his servants, treated them shamefully, and killed them. The king was angry, and he sent his troops and destroyed those murderers and burnt their city. Then he said to his servants, 'The wedding is ready, but those invited were not worthy. Go therefore to the streets and invite to the marriage feast as many as you find.' And those servants went out into the streets and gathered all whom they found, both bad and good. So the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to look at the guests, he saw there a man who had no wedding garment. And he said to him, 'Friend, how did you get in here without a wedding garment?' And he was speechless. Then the king said to the attendants, 'Bind him hand and foot, and cast him into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen.'" The Gospel of the Lord. My dear brothers and sisters, such a fantastic parable, such a rich parable. There is so much in this parable that I could spend 40 minutes or more discussing its finer points, but I won't torture you like that. Instead, I want to approach this parable from a different angle. The great king calls a wedding feast. It reminds me of when Father Stephen stands up here at the ambo and he says to us all, "There will be a great feast once the churches are reopened for Holy Mass. Once we can be together again as a family at Ballito, we will have lamb on the spit, there will be jumping castles." I remember all these things because I like lamb on the spit. And if I must confess, I do like jumping castles a bit too. Father Stephen says there will be a great feast for a great reopening. But I wonder to myself, how many will answer that call? You see, the celebration of reopening the church is but a call to the parishioners from God to re-enter the church. It is God who calls us here. It is God who invites us here. It is God who welcomes us here, because from this table, we do not receive Father David or Father Stephen. We do not receive Pope Francis. We receive God. We receive Jesus Christ, true God and true man. Some of us over the last 4 months may have forgotten that. Some of us over the last 4 months may have allowed complacency to enter our lives. And whilst spiritual communion and digital ministry are fantastic tools for outreach and connection, they can never replace the sacrament. They can never take the place of the one true God whom we receive at this altar. And so, once the call is made, once the bells for celebration are rung, once the invites are sent out, by God, return to me, O people. The place has been made ready. How many will answer the call? How many will choose to go to their farms, to stay in their homes? Digital ministry is enough for me. I will wake up late on Sunday and continue to watch Holy Mass, fast forwarding when I want to fast forward. How many will go to their business, having become so used to now working at our own pace, in our own time, while the rest seized his servants and treated them shamefully and killed them? Well, I don't expect anybody to seize me or Father Stephen and do any physical harm to us. But how many will ignore us? How many will ignore their pastors and their priests? My dear brothers and sisters, these are searching questions for each and every one of us to answer. There are 506 families at this parish, at All Saints Ballito, according to the last survey. 506 families, 864 parishioners, big and small, old and young, round and slim. How I wished I could be again. Where will they be when the invites are sent? And when we respond, when we come back to church, when we make that choice, let us make sure, all of us, that we are in a fitting disposition. The king notices in the parable somebody is at the wedding, but he's not wearing a wedding garment. He's not in the right frame of mind. He's not in the right disposition. And the king says to him, well, how did you get in here? These 4 months we have meant to be preparing for the great invite, for the great return to church, making ourselves ready, praying, connecting with God. As I said, digital ministry is a wonderful tool for connection. Spiritual communion is a wonderful tool in itself, but it prepares you for this. It doesn't replace this. The altar, the bread of life. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, one question: will I return once the invites are sent out? Becomes 2 questions. If I say that I will return, if I make that commitment, if I recognize the value of the sacrament, if I long for it and if I miss it, the question then becomes, in what state shall I return? What will my interior disposition be when I answer the call, when I accept the invite? Will I return with a wedding garment, with joy and light and life, having been nourished by the digital ministry that I have received, by my prayer life, my personal prayer life in these last 4 months? I encourage each and every one of us to look over this parable once more today in our own time and to consider these two questions. Because the time is coming, and the time is coming soon, where the churches will be thrown open once more, and the great feast will be called. And I hope to see each and every one of you here with me. Amen.